go get the therapy. But don't feel pressured by it because you feel as if ladies are pushing you to a certain place, because you feel as if you're inadequate because you don't open up, because you're not a very vocal person who doesn't have the expansive vocabulary as other people. That I reject wholeheartedly. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. We have a good one for you today. We're gonna jump straight into it. We are gonna be discussing this young lady who has gone viral for her comments about men needing to get emotional help and therapy for their lack of communication skills, and her subsequent firing. So let's take a listen to what she actually said. This one is her beginning rant, I believe. And this is the post that got her fired.
The comment says, I wish men would understand that emotional intelligence is so important because of how much clarity/security it would bring to your lives. Y'all think bitches just be talking in y'all ear just to be fucking talking. We don't. Y'all think bitches just want to argue with y'all because y'all refuse to expand your emotional vocabulary. We don't. It's to provide clarity for both us and y'all dusty bitches. Let me stop. This shit really truly irks me because when I say you need to expand your emotional vocabulary, it's so your life can be easier. Don't you want to be able to communicate with your bitch? I think yes, right? Long gone are the days where you can just shut down. Bitches is not tolerating that. Like, it used to be where men provided financially or with schmeat, and bitches can make their own self come and we can pay for our own shit. So I'm gonna need y'all to catch up on the emotional part. If a bitch is telling you, I need you to communicate more, open your fucking mouth. But you know what I realized? And let me back up. A common misconception about me as a clinician is that 90% of my clientele have been men. Black men specifically. And what we specifically work on is expanding their emotional vocabulary, because a lot of y'all motherfuckers don't even have the words to express how you're feeling. So when you expand your vocabulary and knowledge of what you are experiencing, because y'all are human beings who experience feelings and emotions and don't have to choke that shit down no more. Y'all ain't had to choke that shit down since 2016. Anyway, if y'all are not in therapy, expanding your emotional vocabulary, your life just off top is going to be more difficult. When you expand your emotional vocabulary, you expand your awareness of yourself. When you expand your emotional vocabulary, you understand how you can navigate in this bitch. This fucking weird ass world that is so hard on y'all. Like, let's acknowledge that the world is very difficult for y'all, but y'all are not making it any easier, bro. You're not.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. There's more to it, and I'm claiming fair use. I really want to do some commentary about the words that she kind of just stated there. First of all, she did a reaction to this once she was fired. We're going to play that reaction in just a second here. But she was fired, I would assume, for her pervasive use of the B word and just the profanity laced, right? So listen, as a professional, I think that she would have to understand that there's some code of ethics and things along those lines. And whatever her particular job was that fired her probably has some ethics, morals, clauses, upstanding citizen type of language, whatever it is. I'm sure that's the reason that she was fired for this. And this is certainly an embarrassment according to probably social media policies and other policies, morality, ethics, yada, yada, yada. Calling men's women, the B word, right? Don't you want to be able to communicate with your B? Don't you want to be able to, y'all dudes are dusty. I don't even know if she said the N word. I don't know if she said dudes. I watched it a couple times. I can't remember if she said N words or whatever. But I'm sure that's what would cause her to be fired. One of the reasons, right? Once it was brought to the boss's attention to her language and things that she said. So I think it was clearly a clear lack of professionalism in her rant there. So let's look at her apology, so-called. Let's check that.
Well, hello. It's your friendly neighborhood therapist who thought she could save these hoes, but got her job terminated as a result.
Yeah,
Story time? I think yes.
Come on, call them hoes.
Shit you not, I posted a video on Monday telling men that their dusty behavior is only harming them and that they would benefit from emotional intelligence, and I shit you not, by Friday, didn't have employment. All of this started with a Psychology Today article stating that men are lonelier than ever because they have no fucking emotional skills.
Now, I'm going to pause right here. I did a comment, a brief about this particular psychological or Psychology Today. Their article was written there saying that men are more lonely. And you know, I'm not taking any position about that. The question is, are they lonely or are they feeling alone? Because I did make a differentiation between being alone and being lonely. Some people may be alone, but not lonely. And also, the article in it really took the vast majority of its numbers, statistics from dating apps. You know, more men being on dating apps. Are those men really looking for relationships? Are those men in relationships themselves? There's problems to this. So I did do a video about that. So I think that the complete validity of that particular article needs to be questioned. And she's jumping on to the idea that men are just lonely, and therefore they're lonely because women have established a certain place and established a certain level of degree. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But that's what she's talking about. So let's continue on with her.
And I agreed and doubled down and told y'all that y'all lives would radically improve if you expanded the shit that came out your mouth. But instead of healing, y'all will do anything but that. Instead of being accountable, like, hey, this bitch see me, and stirred a little bit, y'all got so hurt that you contacted massa. That's exactly what happened. So first the post goes viral on Twitter, cause y'all need fucking help. And y'all wanted to argue with bitches blue till they fucking blue in the face. Some of you hoes is not gonna be saved. And that's the conclusion that I've come to. So because this shit's gone viral, I'm thinking, okay.
Generally, generally women are called hoes, right? I think generally women are called hoes. Some of you hoes are never going to be saved. These are her words. So I'm assuming that she is equating by calling men who have told on her to acting feminine and female, and therefore calling them hoes. If I'm understanding what she just said. This is TikTok, so you can't really rewind it. So I think that's what she's saying. That is not very clinician-like behavior to continue to emasculate men or attempt to emasculate men who want who perform in a certain way and tell on them, right? The implication is that if you're telling on me, then you're acting like a hoe, a B, a whatever, right? This is what I'm hearing from this therapist, and she's wondering why she was terminated.
Okay, cool. We starting a discussion on mental health, and you might not like my fucking delivery, but motherfuckers is starting to talk, you know, shaking the tables. I don't give a fuck. But then it turns into this.
Obviously, you do give an F because you were terminated, and you're doing another video in response to that, shaking the table. Okay, well, you shook the table, and you fell off. So learn from these mistakes. This is not me going in on her or you in particular, whether you watch this or not. I actually feel bad for you, and I hope that this is a learning lesson for you. Social media can cost many people a job and financial future that you really wanted. You worked hard to get these degrees and certifications that you did, and to have it thrown out the window because of a TikTok video, I feel bad about. I really do feel bad for you, and I hope that this is a learning moment for you.
Entire crusade of attacking a black woman who serves the fucking black community. There were comments like, I'm gonna find her credentials and report her because I told y'all to be better. Yeah, y'all are fucking weird. Y'all scream that y'all want to protect women, protect black women specifically, but have done nothing to protect this black woman who has been serving the communities. I have been violated in several areas, and I'm gonna outline each one. This article was written by a fucking black woman, putting my full government and my place of employment. So being doxxed by a black woman, can't fake, kind of fucking hurts, and she never once reached out to me or contacted me so I could spin my side of the story.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. So she goes on to say more people, I guess, wrote in and things. You can find her on TikTok and all that. It appears as if the black woman who outed her is the one who's mostly responsible for her termination, if you want to put it that way. You know, I still think that the onus is on you for your words. But again, this is not to throw salt or anything like that. I really do feel bad for the things that have happened to you, and I hope that you land on your feet and really get it together and take this as a learning experience. But I wanted to address a couple of things here, and the article that was written in Psychology Today. She's talking about stepping up your emotional intelligence, emotional communication skills, our emotional vocabulary that she used. These are all, words that are kind of new to me, and I have a degree in psychology. So, but my background is admittedly criminal justice, but I do have a degree in psychology, or 2 degrees actually in psychology. So there's always these new terms that are coming up in all this. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to address this idea of stepping up. I wanted to address this idea of stepping up. Now, there's a woman, I played her video before. I may play it at the end of this particular video. I don't know. Her name is Rebecca Lynn Pope, and I played that video on a number of occasions. And she stopped being a dating coach because lack of ability to understand where women were coming from and what they wanted in these days and times. So Rebecca Lynn Pope talked about how women's expectations were unrealistic. Now she did this video years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, 2 million views, something along those lines. And when she detailed that women's expectations of men are vastly not what men are. It's true that in this TikTok video that this young woman describes, that women have stepped up. Absolutely, women have made phenomenal leaps and bounds since the 1960s, feminism, second wave feminism, whatever. As far as education, as far as financial attainment, as far as networking, all these different markers of the so-called business world, they have made all these different markers. And they want men to meet them at a certain level. Now, the pushback that I and many other people would give is that the things that you're asking us to do are those things that men really are? And that's the question I want to ask for today. Is that what men really are? Okay, you've done all these things, and we can talk about the ramifications of women stepping up to these places. Now, I certainly don't have a problem with women stepping up, becoming bosses, leaders, CEOs, mayors, governors, running for president, becoming president. I don't have any problem with any of that. The question is how does that translate into emotional relationships? How does that translate? And if you want men to step up into this certain place to be more emotionally vulnerable, well, is that a question of, it's a 2-part question. Is it one of nurture and nature? Is it one of sociological upbringing, or is it a matter of biological differences? Sociological differences or biological differences, right? Biological differences would be, is that what men really are? Is it just that this is what a man is and what he, in his presentation of masculinity, is that what he is? Is it what he does? Is that how he moves and just operates within the world? That's a question that we really have to kind of look at and answer, right? We really have to kind of look at it and answer. Or is it a question of sociological upbringing and training in which men, because of their environment, are given blue clothes to wear, told to play with trucks, told to climb trees? Well, I don't know. There's probably not much climbing the trees going on in these days and times, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So I think those are the issues that those are issues that I think that men are really kind of that we really kind of have to answer. So what I did was I wanted to understand this from a more academic level, and I know that this is going to be very, very controversial. I understand that, but we can find articles from the 1940s, books written from the 1940s, 50s about the differences between men and women. And according to what she said, since 2016, you don't have to feel as if you have to bottle things up anymore. And, I'm sure that there's been a shift in the zeitgeist as far as education, the shift in the training and the teaching, as far as men and women being essentially the same and all that. Isn't it? And listen, I don't know if it's true or not. I'm asking the question. I'm questioning whether what we're being told is true. Now, what's my regard for this? So here we go to University of Queensland, Australia. Now, the few articles that I'm going to list are from that side of the world, New Zealand and Australia. They're being first world countries. And again, the offspring of the English Empire, the Great Britain. I think that we can kind of cover this type of material here. So let's take a look at this, right? So this article is called "Men Are From Mars," right, from the 1992 book, what I think was republished. "Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus," right? So the challenges of communicating as a male nursing student. So I thought that this was an interesting article, right? The challenges of communicating as a male nursing student. Ladies have often talked about, and rightly so, I'm not saying this is a negative thing. They've often talked about the challenges of working in male-dominated spaces, police departments, corrections departments, military, fire departments, construction workers, working in male-dominated spaces and having to assimilate, step up, in order to deal within those particular spaces, right? Communication styles. So this article goes in to talk about the challenges that male students have when they work in female-dominated environments. So let's take a look at this. The lived experience of male nursing students has not been well documented within the literature. Male nursing students, like those of their registered nurse colleagues, are often disadvantaged by their female colleagues. Numerous citations for that. Though in most cases, not through any malicious intent, right? It's not malicious. You just have a different communication style. Communication intraprofessionally can play a major role in determining the experience male nursing students will have as they journey through the undergraduate nursing program. It is concerning that a large proportion of those male nursing students entering the program will withdraw for a variety of reasons, one of which is assimilating into the nursing role, in which combination is an important consideration, right? The ability to communicate with other people, right? You got to have things in common. It is well recognized that men communicate differently than women. Men are forthright, directive, decisive, and purposeful, whereas women tend to make a more pragmatic approach to the way that they communicate, right? And then there's a citation for that. Women tend to soften it or weaken the language that is used, only referring to the personal pronoun we as a way of reducing the hurtfulness or the undesirability of that message they may infer to the listener. So they try to soften the language, right? Try to be inclusive in their language, right? So that this is men are quitting some of the nursing fields because of their inability to communicate. So as we scroll down, you can read this article, right? Clearly, the men in this study are often perplexed as to how the female students communicated and behaved towards each other. The cattiness, the bitchiness appeared to be insurmountable, and the men were often left confused as to what was happening. The dichotomy they faced was one of either getting involved, which they had repercussions, or become an innocent bystander, where they were often invariably drawn in the conversation away. Yet the interest of the study is the differences in the perception of language and how males and females communicate and engage across the gender divide. Women, in very simplistic terms, appear to use interactions as a means of uniting the group, identifying common good that brings about this closeness, in that the female speech style is one of nurturing and strengthening relationships. Men, on the other hand, are wholly more aggressive and competitive towards each other, each striving for the upper hand, fiercely independent, and use direct to the point language in order to have their message understood. So this is a difference in communication style. I don't think that they should have wrote those words, but nevertheless, That's what they called it, right? So these are PhDs who wrote this from the University of Queensland, and not very long ago, right? 2017. Now, if you recall, one of the citations that was listed as far as men and women being able to communicate differently is by a couple of authors, and so here's the work that they were referencing: doing femininity at work more than just relational practice. Researchers in the area of language and gender have recently begun to examine the multiplicity experiences of gender and the different social contexts and community of practice. A number of researchers, for example, have explored the concept of masculinity and indeed masculinities. Right, so the bunch of citations going all the way up to 2004. Some attention has been paid to the multiplicity of femininities. Again, more citations. That is dynamic and diverse in the ways which people construct different kinds of femininity in social interactions and in different contexts. I believe this article was written in 2003. Femininity is an ambiguous concept with complex associations. It could even be argued that femininity has been treated as something of a dirty word in gender studies, associated with, from a feminist perspective, with a rather dubious set of behaviors. Most obviously, acting feminine conjures up politically incorrect, frilly pink party dresses. Femininity is associated with demureness, deference, and lack of power and influence. Femininity invokes a stereotype and is a negative one for many feminists, and a problematic and uncomfortable one for many academic women. Discussing the issue, Mills implicitly describes this as a negative attitude. One of many important advances made by feminism is to open up within the notion of what it means to be a woman, a distinction between femininity and femaleness, so that one can be a woman without considering herself to be feminine. So I want to jump down to conclusion. So what they have tried to establish in this work has been, or just try to understand, is the role that femininity plays in how it goes in the workplace. And if it's in a female dominated environment, all good. The problem comes in when feminine traits are sometimes in masculine places, that those feminine traits are seen as weakness and seen as intolerances, right? So it says, on the other hand, we have identified relatively low tolerance for aspects of behavior perceived as normative feminine in some contexts, and especially by men engaged in transactional, task-oriented interaction in more masculine communities of practice. Features which are conventionally associated with femininity may thus attract negative comment or derision in the particular workplace interactions within particular workspace cultures. So women, when they're in more male-dominated workspaces, because they don't want negative attention, negative comments, will tend to adopt more masculine traits. Another article here, and this one is from some American folks, right? University of Alabama and all that. So this one is called "Gender Differences in Mediated Communication. Women Connect More than do men." Introduction here. So it says, for instance, Weiser reported that men compared to women are more likely to use the internet to search for dates, read the news, look for jobs, get sports, financial information, read politics, and play games. Whereas women compared to men are more likely to use it for interpersonal communication, email, chatting, etc., etc. So it goes on to completely continue to talk about this, but I want to jump down to the discussion, right? When I run through all the numbers and talk about their methodology and all that. So let's get to the discussion. These results indicate that even when men and women have the freedom to act however they want, something that mediated communication oftentimes uniquely provides, they still act in accordance with gender role expectations. These few articles that I read talk about women in the workplace, right? And it talks about the differences in communication styles that men and women have. So I bring all that to talk about is what the lady in the video that we played and other sociologists, psychologists telling men to step up. Is this something that men have to do? The question about biology, the question about sociology, as the inherent problem with the question that they're posing to us is is that there's a certain place, there's a certain level that we have to be, right? This is completely from the female lens and point of view, that we want you to step up. Here is the line, here is the level, and you men are down here. Well, different doesn't mean wrong. And if we communicate differently, if we do things from a different level, then that doesn't mean that we're wrong. It just means that we're different. And wanting men to be a certain thing doesn't mean we're going to be a certain thing. It doesn't mean that we have I don't want men to walk around with their heads hung low because they feel as if they can't communicate efficiently. Now, that doesn't mean that you should go home and feel okay with bottling up. Your woman wants you to talk. She wants you to tell you about her day. She wants you to be open, emotionally available, whatever that means to them. I think that a conversation needs to be had about what that means to you. If it means coming home, telling you about my day and telling you about how the boss is going to do this, going to do that, listen, a man may not be able to do that. And and people have to understand either side of that particular equation. You have to be able to get that. This is from the Relationship Institute. Obviously, they have something to give here, and the name of this particular article from the Relationship Institute is "Differences Between Men and Women." Right, so they got information you can call up and get therapy for your relationship and all that. Are men and women really different? Let's look at the evidence of a variety of areas of life. Note that these findings are generalizations and summaries that apply to most men and women, but not to all men. Physiological differences, difference in their brains, social influences, right? Are we being socialized different, right? Developmental differences, values and self-esteem. Men seem to feel good about themselves when they achieve things. They're generally interested in objects rather than things and people and feelings. Women value love, communication, beauty, and relationships. That certainly adheres to the last article that we read, talking about how women were more likely to use the internet for emailing and chatting and things. Not that that's right. That those articles, I admit, were written quite some time ago. And the question is, are those things still true today, or are we telling ourselves this? Other differences: monological, analytical. Women are in touch with a wider range of feelings than men, and interested in intensity of those feelings is usually much greater for women than men. As a result, many men. So I want to go back up here to the top here. People in relationships often have strong expectations that their partner will be just like they are, exhibit the same attitudes, values, perceptions, and behaviors. However, we know that you will not change your partner's attitudes and behavior unless they themselves are motivated to do so. You are even less likely to change their basic gender characteristics. So it is very important to educate yourself as to the basic gender differences which exist between men and women, and accept the fact that that the differences are there, they are real, and they're not going away. In this way, you can learn to use the differences as such to enrich your relationship rather than damage it. So, and then of course it goes on to these different psychological values, men and women, and all that. So, men becoming the best versions of yourself, that's going to mean getting the help and the therapy that you need, if you need it. Now, I'm not saying it's okay to go through life accepting trauma for what it is. I'm not saying that it's okay to, if you have trauma that is inhibiting your ability to communicate effectively and efficiently with your woman, then you need to address that. If you are having problems and troubles with relationships, abuses, sexual abuses, yes, brother, go get some help. Absolutely, go get some help for that. Become a resource and a help to your woman, become a resource and help to your woman. Absolutely. But to the ladies out there, let me just say, try to understand that men and women generally are different, and we communicate differently. We have different values, different likes. The jury's out as to whether those are sociologically based or whether they are biologically based. If it's sociological, then it's going to take years for this to be unsocialized, right? Everybody's got to be on the desocialization of it. If it's biological, you just got to kind of accept it. And I don't want men to walk around feeling as if they should feel bad about themselves, about the way that they communicate. We went through the literature as to how men and women communicate differently on the job. And so women oftentimes don't feel comfortable in men's spaces, so therefore they have to adopt the more so-called masculine qualities. We looked at an article from Nursing Today about men not doing so well in certain environments and then feeling the need to leave the nursing environment because they just didn't have anything in common, right? So both genders, both sexes feel a level of discomfort when and if they are placed in the exact opposite of the places of the exact opposite. That is, that women in men's spaces feel uncomfortable, men in women's spaces feel uncomfortable. To the men, let me sum this up by saying, to the men out there, if you need help, therapy, go get it. Right. But also at the same time, two things can be true at the same time. Don't feel the need, the pressure to say you need to step up, you need to do this, you need to do that. If that's just not the way, not who and what you are. Now, I'm not talking about hiding trauma. I'm not talking about any of that. But if that's just not who you are, you just like to come home, just listen, baby, I just need to relax. Give me an hour just to sit back, kind of just chill and all that. And we'll just kind of just deal with it, a little bit later. You got to understand how your man or your woman needs to unwind, relax, and get close in that intimacy. The last point I want to say, and this has been said in so many other podcasts, so many other times, I'm going to say it again. I've had conversations about this, talked about this, that one of the biggest reasons that men don't open up and feel safe about their therapy and feel safe about going to therapy, feel safe about going to wherever, is because of the behavior, unfortunately, of this woman like this, right? They don't want to be put on blast. They don't want to be made to feel weak. They don't want to be called hoes and women when and if the situation goes awry and astray. And if they're in romantic relationships, and if they say something to their spouse, if they say something to their partner, and that partner then weaponizes whatever they said, then that is going to be a problem. And you're never going to get that man or to open up to you again. So if you want a safe space, you got to be able to create that safe space. You got to be able to create a situation wherein whatever I say, I'll never hear it again. It'll never be used against me. And I'll never hear it again unless I bring it up. Right? Ladies have to adopt that type of mentality when they're in relationships. Otherwise, they're not going to get anywhere. So to the men out there, don't feel bad about it. If you need therapy, certainly go get it. Go get the help. Go get the therapy. But don't feel pressured by it because you feel as if ladies are pushing you to a certain place, because you feel as if you're inadequate because you don't open up, because you're not a very vocal person who doesn't have the expansive vocabulary as other people. That I reject wholeheartedly. Much love and peace. Let me know your thoughts, your opinion about this. Should we open up? Are there differences between men and women, or is this just something that is a new phenomenon that's going on? Let me know your thoughts and your opinion.